Hi, everybody. Let's see if I'm on. I can see everything. And I know my system is. Let's see. Takes always a little bit. There we go. Okay. And I know my system is. We're working on a lot of things. And so thank you for your patience. And I think this is all working now. Okay. So we are at day 1000. Oh my gosh, 714. 1714, and it is April 8th, 2025. Wow. So we've been working very hard behind the scenes. We're checking a lot of records right now, dotting our I's, crossing our T's, filing. Just to give you just a little perspective, yesterday we filed 12 letters. So, and that doesn't include the emails. So we're working very, very hard behind the scenes, getting more ready to go. But we're getting more and more tips, especially about the safari van, being spotted there at Walmart. And more information is coming out with that we are checking. And this is from the dispatches, right? The dispatches. So, and that evidence has been sealed. So we're, very appreciative of the gag order being lifted and witnesses being able to speak up about the case, and more should speak up about the case because it really has just absolutely fallen apart. And we just, of course, released another segment of an audio, just the audio transcript. I'll cut that piece out and post it up. But it really, you can hear it when I post it, and you have other audios that we've already posted where Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, really the most corrupt defense attorney in El Paso, is, contradicting his whole case, the whole case. That's why we're saying this needs to all be shut down because this, with all the conflicts of interest, with all the contradictions, with all of the criminal activities, the weaponization of the criminal judicial system, this whole case has to be closed up. With the usurpation of Bill Hicks and him tampering, right? And him taking away, don't forget, and many of you might not know this, but he tampered with Loretta Lynn's notebooks, right? He tampered with Loretta Lynn's notebooks. Um, and her evidence that she gathered as the lead prosecutor in this case. So the more and more that you look at it, the more and more, and I know that we have such an invested interest in this because our son's case is so intertwined with the Walmart mass shooting case. So, and we were asked to bring forth leads. We were asked to investigate our own son's murder case. So, this is, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it because of all the corruption, because of all the compromising, because of all the fear from all of these cartel tied um, connections within these cases in El Paso, within Richards. We are, even though I was born at White Sands, went to school in El Paso, have a huge connection with El Paso, I don't have the connection like these compromised, very compromised, the judicial system, the CID, and they're so afraid. They're so afraid. They were. I was telling you many, many times when we would go on Fort Bliss, they're just shaking. They're just shaking, and they're looking like um, um, deer in the in headlights. They are very. They know that this is really, really big, and they're in cover-up mode. The generals were in cover-up mode. The provost marshal and the IG of the army, total cover-up mode, total criminal, total treasonous criminal, and she should get the full force of the law for what she's done. Absolutely, and the Nuremberg trials after World War II, and me being from German heritage, we pay attention to this kind of stuff. You learn lessons, right, from this kind of stuff. And the generals, especially from everything that my grandmother told me about pre World War II and World War II and what was going on there, the brown shirts, and what Germans knew, what was going on the streets. And it was very interesting um, to talk to my grandmother when she was alive, because she was right there in Pirmasens, right? Pirmasens, Germany, where we had a base for America had a base for the longest afterwards, because it's right there on the French border. So right there on the French border. Matter of fact, a lot of the German slang words from that area, the dialect from that area, is French. And so it's very much like the situation there in El Paso, where you have, just a very blended culture. And in, in Pirmasens, Germany, even during World War One and World War Two, it's a very blended culture there. And and you can hear it in the dialect. Uh, you know, uh, the regular word for sidewalk in German would be Gehweg, right? Gehweg, to go and in the way, Gehweg. But in Pirmasens, it was Trottoir, which is a French word. So that's how I learned it. Um, and so it just, like I said, it's a blended culture, because it's right there on the border. And so you have a lot of things going on. And so to hear what and it was so bombed, it was so totally bombed. Um, the city was so bombed, and they took down the beautiful trees. They had beautiful chestnut trees that, my Oma being very, very poor, the poor children loved the chestnut trees because they would eat from them, right? They would roast the chestnuts. And so when they cut them down, it was really, really something my Oma never forgot. Never forgot. She absolutely knew what hunger was, and so did my mother. Especially being a widow, she lost her husband, three children. Anyway, it's very interesting when you come from a family that tells you these stories. And the Nuremberg trials absolutely declared that just because you were obeying orders is not an excuse. And so Donna Martin, I don't care what McConville told her or what Mealy told her, just obeying orders is not an excuse. And she really committed very high crimes, very high crimes, in this case. And of course, connected to the whistleblowing. You have to remember Richard's case started with the whistleblowing. They all knew that Richard was whistleblowing. They all knew that he was identifying the cartel tie trafficking there on Fort Bliss. Um, we've even gotten information, and I haven't totally confirmed it yet with our family and all of that, but that he absolutely was giving a heads up even to something happening like the Walmart mass shooting. And absolutely his unit is part of all of this that went on. Okay, part of the Walmart mass shooting, part of um, the targeting of Richard and the murder of Richard. And so he was whistleblowing. And we know that the IG were all over the barracks because of him. We know that President Trump sent a massive amount of ICE agents. We know that Richard reported multiple times to CPS. We know that that information is being sealed. Um, just like the evidence in the Walmart case being sealed. And so, with more and more people coming out that are giving us these tips, it's this GMC Savari van seems to be of course a Pontiac Montana 2004 Pontiac Montana 2000, I believe it's a 2000 GMC Safari. The big GMC Safari seems to be getting a lot of traction. And, you know, so, and then you have, of course, the most corrupt defense attorney in El Paso, Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, who demanded an open checkbook. And that is not me just saying it. That is him saying it on an audio that we have, and we released that. He didn't want nickels and dimes. He wanted, he wasn't going to do it for nickels and dimes. I will have to have an open checkbook. It's a demand. And that means what he's demanding is access to taxpayer funds, okay, to unlimited taxpayer funds. That's what he was demanding. So he wanted to take advantage, extort taxpayers. That's what he wanted to do. And he absolutely kept from the narrative the fact that Patrick Crusius was he said from birth. I would say, from infancy, I try to err always on the very safe side from infancy, that he was severe autistic, and that later on he was diagnosed with this schizoaffective disorder. But he had multiple mental health conditions. And yet, with all the access to all that money, and I don't know if he used it for, you know, and I'm just saying, Las Vegas or something. I don't know what he used it for, right? But he did not demand a a mental health evaluation for his client. He did not um, demand a mental health competency hearing for his client. And even though he is on audio saying that from the very, very beginning, when he was demanding the open checkbook, he knew that Patrick Crusius was severely mentally, um, he calls it a broken brain. And so the whole case, from the very beginning, like I said, from the very beginning with Penny Hamilton, because Penny Hamilton, who's she? She's nobody off the street. Go take a bag lady off the street, and she would have the same power as Penny Hamilton did. None, zero. She has no legitimacy, and yet she sealed the case. Yet she put out a warrant for Patrick Crusius's arrest. Patrick Crusius wasn't even read his Miranda rights. Patrick Crusius then later on said he waived him or whatever. Patrick Crusius didn't even have his hands bagged for gunpowder. Patrick Crusius, the whole arrest is surreal. It's like, like some minor crime. It's no, he was charged. He was pled, um, facilitated to be pled. I hate to even say that he said he was guilty because I don't even know if he's in the right mind because there's no competency exam to tell us if he was in his right mind. So, you have the worst defense attorney, the most corrupt defense attorney, Mr. Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, facilitating a plea deal for his client for 90, 90 federal hate crimes, 90 federal hate crimes and arms violations. When he has been on audio saying he has a broken brain. Well, he didn't say that on audio. Did he say he said that in yeah, he said it on record that he's has a broken brain and that he's not a racist, that he's not a white supremacist. And he even at the sentencing when they're saying you're a racist, he's like, no. And then his actions, surrendering twice, and he surrendered to a Hispanic DPS agent and totally um, contradicting the manifesto, right? Totally contradicting the manifesto that I will never surrender and I will go down shooting and whatever, all this stuff. So, the manifesto doesn't match the man. So, who wrote the manifesto? Who was really very clever on the computer, right? Who was a trained cyber technician? Who was a trained hacker? Who was, who, who, and the whole manifesto, it doesn't even match his age. It doesn't match who he is. It doesn't match anything. And, so this is not a defense of Patrick Crusius, even though I seem to be a better defense attorney and I have no training for it than the most corrupt defense attorney, Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, who, what he did demand? Not the mental health evaluation, but he demanded the open checkbook. He demanded the access to taxpayers' funds that are unlimited. Unlimited. That means, and in 2023, I think it was already 30 million. 30 million. I mean, millions and millions of dollars for delay, delay, delay. And it's like, what are you spending it on? You have this big team. What are you spending it on? You're not telling the truth. You're not defending Patrick Crusius at all. I mean, he's awaiting almost 7,000 years in prison. I mean, yeah, with a defense attorney like that, with an open checkbook, access to taxpayer money, who needs an enemy? Who needs an enemy, right? Who needs a prosecutor? Who needs a prosecutor? Oh, and they didn't even have a prosecutor with Bill Hicks. They didn't have a prosecutor with Montoya because neither one of them are legally processed. They're not legally installed as the district attorney for the 34th Judicial District. You know, so and what did they do with Yvonne Rosales? They absolutely did to her, targeted her, and bullied her so much, intimidating, threatened, and schemed together to remove her and replace her. That's what they did. And yeah, so and then Jaime Esparza, he's the one that appointed Joe Spencer, right? Uh, Bypassing the normal protocol for a random choice. No, let's not have a random choice. I want to handpick. I want to handpick. Handpick is better than he really wasn't appointed because you have to be randomly picked. But uh, but Jaime Esparza handpicked Joe Spencer, and he handpicked Sam Madrano, very, very clearly. And it's the chart that I put up a couple weeks ago about this case, that Joe Open Checkbook Spencer, serves as a defense attorney for both the state and federal cases is very, very odd, and that Jaime Esparza served as a prosecutor for the state and federal case also because he was then appointed to the AUSA, the federal prosecutor. So, which is very, very odd. Very, very odd. What are the chances? What are the chances? So, this case needs to be shut down so that we can move forward because whatever happens in this case, it's a botched case and you're never going to get any kind of good results. So, the 21st of April is the state hearing, a sentencing. And, it's going to be interesting what Joe Spencer does, right? What will Joe Open Checkbook Spencer do? So we are diligently listening through um, all of the information that we're getting and posting it for the public because it is the taxpayers that are footing the bill for all of this, right? They are absolutely paying for all of this. And so they should absolutely know what's going on. We have transparency in our government in this country. That's what uh, restrains tyranny. That is what restrains a um, a dictatorship. And so we need to have as much transparency as possible. So we also got some very big news about Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who and we've been hearing this for a while now that he is going to run and he came out today and said it for Senator Cornyn's spot. He is going to run against Senator Cornyn. Senator Cornyn does not have a good reputation, y'all. He doesn't have a good reputation at all. Um, and so I guess Attorney General Ken Paxton is going to run for that Senate seat to represent Texas. And we, put together, everything takes a little time because you have to think about what you want to say. And I think it's a little hard hitting, but not hard hitting enough. It's not hard hitting enough for him. And so we'll see what he does because we are 70 days into this new administration, and a lot has been happening, and I know they've turned off the spigot for the cartels and the narco politicians and the NGOs with the US aid. That's a lot of money, and you saw it in the financials of our country lately. With the Dow Jones, losing a lot of money over these last few days because that criminal activity was such a huge, huge part of the contracting and the military contracting, all the land contract, all this, a big part of the economy of the United States was, this Sinaloa cartel connected, tied criminal trafficking activities. And so when you turn off the spigot, you're turning off the spigot to a lot of money that was in the economy because even a trafficker has to eat cherry pie, right? Even a trafficker wants tacos. Even a trafficker has to live, wants their yard done, wants to buy new things, wants to buy new vehicles and all that stuff. And so when you turn off the spigot and dry it up, then, that's why I posted iPencil for people to understand, because this was absolutely to be expected. So, how are we? The question is economically, if you are into economics, and you have to also remember that President Trump, when he went to university, that was his major. His major was economics. He knows all about economics. And you see that in his financials. I learned about that in 2015 when he came down that escalator and announced that he was going to run for president. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. And I really didn't. I really didn't know who he was. I had been living in Europe, and we wanted to look. We wanted to, so we started listening to any kind of video and downloading his financials and checking them out. And they're bringing out Perot right now too. When Perot was talking about the great sucking sound, and Ross Perot, I voted for Ross Perot. Um, so that just shows you how neutral we try to be, or we're just looking at the candidates and seeing who would be America first. And Ross Perot was America first, absolutely. And it's a shame they really got rid of the third party option because of the traction that Ross Perot got during that election. And if you don't know about it, it would go to YouTube or whatever and go look up Ross Perot, because he got a lot of traction. It was really amazing. Um, and he was really protecting American made business. But now, we have this big gap. We have this big gap. We um, did the NAFTA with Clinton, that, the great sucking sound of all the production went to Mexico, or went overseas, to the east, went over to the east. And we, now have this big gap, and we need production. And so, to bring back investment, those that know how to produce, of course, I live in South Carolina by Spartanburg, and we have the BMW plant. They absolutely know how to produce something, but the parts, it's just an assembly plant, um, which does make the cars, the BMW, what do you call them? Anyway, um, it's not a sedan, it's SUVs, the SUVs. Um, you know, but we need to make the components. We need to start making stuff. And then, our economy will be a real economy, right? It will be a legal economy. It won't be a criminal economy. And that will really, really help our justice system. Because if you're, and we know, I mean, I don't have to explain it to people. We absolutely know that they have been abusing their power and weaponizing their positions in the criminal justice system, and in the Department of Justice, and in the law enforcement. And, we see that everywhere. It's not, like a surprise anymore. Um, and why? Because they have to take over uh, that the legal system in order to hide their criminal activities, their cartel tied criminal activities, that are a big part of the economy. And so that's where all that corruption came from. And of course, that goes into all the contracts. It gets more and more criminal, and even into the independent school districts. I mean, it's just because that's where a lot of contracts are, wherever the contracts are to manipulate the contracts and to manipulate the system, um, to get the contracts. And that's where Luther Jones comes in. I posted that up for people to understand. Luther Jones was handpicking uh, judges, handpicking the system so that he could get the contracts, so that he could do his criminal activities with impunity, because he had, like a mob boss, bought off the system in order to do his dirty work. But he got caught, and now we're all caught in this situation that we're in, and we, it's just. Uh, and I'm so glad that a lot of you have not had to suffer like we have by losing your loved one. And those that have, we're fighting very, very hard for you to do it the right way, the legal way, not to be vengeful, but absolutely the legal way. And that's hard because I'm just going to be popping champagne when they finally um, arrest Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, and and there's bigger fish. There's bigger fish, as Leilani would say, the bigger fish. And so this is uh you know there's a story in the Bible. You don't want to go and rip out the weeds, because you might rip out some wheat while you're doing it. You have to let God do it. And that means you have to let the legal system do it. And that means right now we do need these tariffs to drive America first. The tariffs are really the only option to drive America first, meaning bring back investment, um, bring big people that do know how to manufacture into the country. So I think they have hundreds of billions of dollars. It might almost be $1 trillion now that they have gotten for investments into the country to um, to produce something, to build factories and actually produce something. And that's very, very good news. So, we need more, though. We need more. And with that, with the good economy, um, justice always comes, right? Because then you have a legal business. And so you want a truly legal justice system, a law abiding justice system to protect your interests. It's not like you're trying to cover up crimes. You're trying to legally protect your interests. So the justice system will get better also, with that, and then that means that families will get better, and communities will get better, and it really, uh, and this is not something new with President Trump. It's high and true, all through history. And this is what even Ross Perot was trying to do, trying to tell people. And you saw even Chuck Schumer back then was trying to tell people. Um, he compromised, though. Clearly he compromised. So this all has to do. People were telling me at the very beginning, when I was talking about politics, they would say, "Well, what does politics has to do with it? What does this election have to do with it? What does this have to?" It has everything to do with it. It has everything. Look at who you know um the whole who designated Richard in the line of duty. It was 4 days after President Trump was inaugurated that the DOD designated Richard in the line of duty, confirming that Richard was murdered on Fort Bliss. Okay, so I put a post trying to describe that for people, for that they understand what in the line of duty means. Um, and so, of course, politics, I mean, that's why they spend so much money. It has everything to do with justice, it has everything to do with um, our day to day well being. Unfortunately, but it does. Because if you don't have a job, uh, then you're going to resort to other things and you're going to be compromised much easier. But if you have a very good legal job with all the benefits, you're going to be doing so much better and so much happier, and your family's going to be happy, and you have a good character to be proud of. So this is why what President Trump is doing right now makes a lot of sense to us. Um, and and we absolutely are supporting it. Are we going to hold his feet to the fire? 100%. 100%. The same thing with AG Ken Paxton. The same thing with the criminal law magistrate court. The same thing with the chief medical examiner. The same thing with the DA's office. The same thing with the federal courthouse. The same thing. We're uh, absolutely uh, paying attention to what is going on, and we appreciate everybody's input. So let's read some of the comments now. Anicia, thank you so much for coming on and your prayers and your love. Resty, thank you so much. So very sad, so very sad. A video of the incident. Um, Prayers for his family and his friends. Heartbreaking. I don't know. I'm going to have to probably hide you. I'm going to have to probably hide you because you're posting something that I don't know is good. Yeah. Yeah. People, we have been so targeted, and they've played such games, and they come in, and it's difficult. It really is difficult because um, they'll come in and they'll say that they're for you. Well, they're imposters, right? They're imposters, and they say that they're for you or whatever, but they're really agents. They're really agents up to no good, and they're agents for the politicians. We've had agents for Veronica Escobar, up to no good, right? Up to no good, and more and more. And we know who this was what Richard was exposing with the generals, what Richard was exposing on Fort Bliss, his murder and what that exposed, and who did it and what that exposed, and the Walmart mass shooting and what that exposes. Um, this has been, we've absolutely been a target. Okay. We've been a target, and they, even after they murdered Richard, or proved the murder of Richard, that wasn't enough. They had to smear him. They had to conduct a smear campaign, and all of that to try to bury this case. So it was very, very obvious. Um, and now we understand what was going on. That took us, we had to investigate. We had to investigate. So thank you so much. I hope that you look at the posts and share them. Share them with groups, because we are being shadow banned, and we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So if we want justice, we have to do it together. We have to do it together in this system, which is, it's a beautiful thing because it brings us together and we depend on each other. And so then we're a little bit nicer to each other. We should be very nice to each other, because, we have to live together. And that's what our whole system of the people, for the people, by the people means. Um, So please share, please comment, and also if you have a tip, please share those tips. So thank you so much. God bless you.